This is Formula Legends, a new F1 game developed by the Italian studio 3D Clouds. This game's been on my radar for a few months now, and they've just dropped a playable demo for PC and consoles, so today we'll be taking a look to see how this highly anticipated title is shaping up ahead of its official release on the 18th of September. I've always found it puzzling that with the 75 plus year history of Formula 1 that there's been very few games that dive into the past eras of the sport. The official F1 games haven't seen historic cars since F1 2020, let alone any full grids of past decades or playable historic seasons. Formula Legends, with the freedom of simply being inspired by F1 rather than officially licensed, aims to rectify this by offering cars and tracks from not just the current era, but from as far back as the 60s and 70s, all with their own pseudo team names and in many cases hilariously adjusted driver names. This amounts to dozens of cars and drivers to choose from, all with their own stats and driving models. The 14 tracks are said to all have multiple variants, and again the layouts are loosely based on their real life counterparts. You'd be forgiven for thinking a game with this chunky and cartoon aesthetic would be designed primarily with arcade physics in mind, but 3D Clouds have clearly put a lot more effort into simulating the world of Formula 1 than you might expect. There's some lofty goals here, and not just with the main hook of playing across a 70-year time span of open-wheeled motorsport, but indeed a real effort to include much of the elements of F1 that fans are familiar with. QTE-style pit stops, tyre degradation, fuel loads, DRS or WRS as it's depicted here, oversteer and understeer on the racing line, variable weather, the list goes on, and that's before we even look at driving assists, including traction control, ERS deployment, anti-lock braking and downforce variances. It's all very ambitious, but 3D Clouds do still have some work to do to stick the landing and deliver on these promises. This is clearly a talented studio working on their biggest title yet, following up a strong lineup of racing games such as Hot Wheels Monster Trucks, Fast and Furious, Xenon Racer and Dino Karts to name a few. Graphically, Formula Legends has rightfully chosen a fun and charming aesthetic to the game. It's a unique looking title, especially in this day and age of pixel perfect sim racers, and echoes the likes of countless arcade drivers as well as Micro Machines and circuit breakers, particularly when using the distant camera viewpoint. This style also offers the benefit of being able to hide, or more accurately get away with, some shortcomings on details with classic fogging of distant assets and boxy models for crowd work. Personally, I love the look of the game. I particularly appreciate the filters applied for the different eras of cars with sepia tones and a softer focus for the historic races. The frame rate does need some work. This footage is recorded on a PS5 Pro and you'd expect nothing less than 60 frames per second for this type of game, but we do appear to be a bit off the mark here, at least in this demo. The Xbox Series X demo performs even worse. But these are things that are often patched before or soon after launch, so I'm hopeful that this will be one of the first things we see improved in future updates. You know a developer is proud of their work when they include a photo mode right out of the box. Speaking of, the game will only be available digitally at first, but I'm told physical editions are also being considered for the future. Audio is serviceable and the music is fine. It does everything it needs to do and creates the right atmosphere for the on-screen action. I'd like to have a higher volume balance for the cars, but this is easily rectified with the customisable music and gameplay settings. Ultimately, the success of Formula Legends will rest on the merits of its content, gameplay and above all, handling. The game offers a full suite of single-player story modes, custom championships and time trials, but inexplicably omits a local or online multiplayer. Let's hope this feature is something considered for future updates as well. The variety of cars and tracks is plenty, and game-modifying boosts attributed to specific drivers and teams should add some longevity to the game. It's these small gameplay tweaks such as tiny top speed boosts, lower tyre degradation which will allow for decent variety without going down the nitro turbos and weapons based route that the majority of arcade racers tend to take, and keeps the game more aligned with its less than extreme gameplay style. So far so good, but there is still one hurdle that Formula Legends needs to clear, and that's with the car handling. With only the demo gameplay to judge so far, it's entirely possible there may be tweaks to come, but I can see this being polarising for many players. You may come to this game expecting twitchy arcade style steering, just like F1 Race Stars from the Xbox 360 generation, but in fact the handling leans way more towards trying to simulate the weight and inertia of full-size F1 cars, rather than go-karts. If you've played Art of Rally, another great recent racing title with a wholesome presentation and a deep appreciation for its subject matter, you'll know what to expect. At first I found controls to be very heavy-handed with a wide dead zone, meaning you'd initiate a turn, nothing would happen for a moment, and then you'd suddenly get a snap of oversteer and then have to correct yourself, leading to some unpredictable moments, particularly in long sweeping corners. With time though, this does become easier to anticipate, but it definitely requires some adaptation from the player to get used to things before it feels natural. Some players are likely to be put off by this, but I don't think this game is intended for the typical kart racing crowd. Things start to make even more sense when you begin to turn off the driving assists, forcing you to learn to keep the car balanced at all times, which in turn encourages smooth inputs and naturally reduces those wild oversteer moments. There's still room for improvement, but if you're looking for a game to learn rather than just pick up and play, this holds much potential. In summary, first impressions of Formula Legends are deceptive, but in the best way possible. The refreshingly fun presentation soon gives way to a much deeper set of gameplay mechanics that demand a much higher level of attention and commitment from the player to earn its rewards. I'm keen to see how the final product shapes up when it releases on September the 18th, so if you'd like to see my review at that time, please consider liking this video and following the channel for more racing game content. Thank you very much for watching, perhaps I'll see you on another video. Bye for now.